So hi, my name is Cujo. I feel really weird recording this with a camera. I'm not used to it, so I'm bashful. I'm sorry. I normally just record with the microphone, but yeah, I got the camera set up, and this is my sick, cool setup that you see around me. It's lit up and stuff. Normally, I'm just in like a dark, decrepit room around this time. But I'm gonna talk about Dark Souls. I think some of my favorite videos on the website have all been spurred from Dark Souls. The website being YouTube. And originally, this was a video that I had wanted to script and kind of plan out, but I'm gonna go off the cusp and kind of just talk about my experience with Dark Souls, and hopefully it would like help people learn a bit more about me, maybe. But I played all the Dark Souls in chronological order, and I played them shortly a little bit after release, except I played Dark Souls 1 when Dark Souls 2 came out, but I didn't like it at first, but I'll get into that. In high school, I was not a high-performing student, I guess you could say. Like, I kind of neglected school, and then was really honestly just kind of bumming around. And I think Dark Souls 1 came out in 2014, and then Dark Souls 2 came out in 2016. I'm not entirely sure of the exact years, but I played Dark Souls 1 in my sophomore year of high school when one of my friends that I had at the time had suggested that I basically should play this game because it's super sick, and of course like everybody has this story, and that just happens to be my own as well. At least that's what I hear. It seems like everyone just has like this one other person that like word of mouth that was like, dude, you have to play Dark Souls. So it's like the same thing that happened with me. I played Dark Souls 1 at the time that Dark Souls 2 released, because I think I'd watched a couple people stream Dark Souls 2, and then the friend was like, while he's playing through Dark Souls 2, he's like, you should play Dark Souls 1. So I played Dark Souls 1, and I made it completely to Anor Londo, and I hated the whole experience of playing up until Anor Londo, that I just dropped Dark Souls and then did not play it for probably another like few months. But yeah, I was like basically very, very lost when I played Dark Souls 1 as a person. Like, I was starting to gain weight from just like binge eating in high school. I didn't work out, didn't take care of my health. I was playing like a bunch of games, but then the games felt like meaningless. Like, you just moved from task to task, and there was no real intention behind anything you did. It was just like, oh, you beat the game, woo, and then it's like, and it's not satisfying. But of course, when I had played Dark Souls 1, I fell victim to what everybody like falls victim to. I like went down into the graveyard area, and I kept dying to the skeletons over and over. I couldn't figure out basically where to go, what to do. I was lost, and I think most people do get frustrated. Like, I got frustrated and then quit, and then didn't pick it up until a few months later. I played Dark Souls 2, and for some reason I like really loved Dark Souls 2 compared to 1. Like, I'd played it on and off while I played other games. I think I played like Far Cry 3 or something, and Dark Souls, to me, the series now is like infinitely better than Far Cry. I don't even know why I would prefer to play that, but
Okay. He was right.
Dark Souls 2, I think, out of the series is probably the weakest one, but it's the one that got me into like Dark Souls as a whole. There's a streamer and YouTuber on all the platforms, the Twitch and the YouTube. His name is Scott Jund, and he got me into Dark Souls 2 PvP from watching, and then eventually I think it just led me down the road to really understanding Dark Souls as a whole, and I fell in love with it. And I played Dark Souls 2 on a PS3 that I had, and in like really weird living situation with my mom. But I think the gears or something clicked where like I understood this game I'm just not gonna be able to passively beat. Like, I have to actively work towards trying to understand how this game works in order to complete it. But I like became obsessed with it. Like, I still, even in high school, I like neglected school still in order to get good at Dark Souls 2. Which, when you just fast forward to me completing Dark Souls 2, I beat it. I did all the cool stuff, and then I beat the game, and I was like really happy. I can't even remember the final boss's name. But I complete that game, and I was like neglecting school just to get good at that game and play PvP. And I fell in love with that game so much that I knew that I had to go back and play Dark Souls 1, which led me to pick up my old save that was from where I stopped at Anne Orlando. And of course, I understood the game series as a whole, and then played Dark Souls 1 and fell in love with the world. Compared to Dark Souls 2, I like the world building in Dark Souls 1, I think is the best out of any FromSoft game. Obviously, that's like a common opinion too, but it's true. It's like universally true. I feel like the world design for Dark Souls 1 at the time is like actually kind of crazy. Like, to me, I hadn't experienced a game really where you could just get lost in the world and then go through like these different areas and navigate all this different stuff, and then you find basically like the other side of a gate where you can open, and then it gives you a shortcut to the area that you were just in probably like a couple hours before, to where like everything in the map interweaves. It's just crazy that they were able to do that, I guess. Like, it just felt like a living, breathing world compared to like everything else at the time. It was like open world and everything's empty, or they just give you a bunch of shit to do, but it doesn't really feel like, it just feels like they're giving you shit to do. It's not really like intentionality. But anyway, I've talked about this a few times on my channel, but in the span, I think it was like the end of sophomore year and then in my junior year of high school, my parents were divorced, and then my mother had went homeless pretty much, and we went and stayed with a friend that she had. Before then though, we didn't really have a place to stay, so I went and stayed with my aunt, and I took my Xbox and my copy of Dark Souls 1 with me, and it was in the summer, I think, between my sophomore and junior year, so I had some time to game. And so I went and stayed with my aunt, and the living situation there was honestly pretty hard on me. I won't go into too many details, but maybe I can talk about it in the future. But in the span of like feeling a lot of confusion and pain there, I think I really grew to love Dark Souls 1 as a game, because really it was a way to put my creative energy towards something, and it was an outlet for me to like feel like I had control over something in my life at that point, because I was around, I think, 15. There's a hair on my mic. And, you know, I was like not doing the best in school. Didn't know why I could just obsess over this game, but like I couldn't do anything really. Like in my education, I couldn't force myself to like become educated, I guess, or like get good grades, and that would be like what was spat at me from like people above me, both in school and like my parents or just people in my family. It was like, you should get good grades and go to college, but like no one ever really led me to understand why that was important. But then like Dark Souls made me feel like I could be really good at something. And I think that that's why I got so obsessive over Dark Souls 2 and then transferred over to Dark Souls 1 and then just like binged the hell out of that game in the summer. I think it was like summer of 2016, I think. Oh my gosh, I don't remember. But you could see like the tangible progress of like not being able to beat a boss, get frustrated, but then you pay attention, you learn about the boss, and then eventually you're able to actually overcome the boss, and there's like a huge like dopamine release of like, holy shit, I just beat the boss, that I like had never got in the entirety of my life. I think since when I was a kid, like playing Zelda or anything like that. But yeah, I never got the same value of like accomplishing things in school, or like I didn't get a huge dopamine release like how Dark Souls gave, I guess. This is going to a good place, I promise. But I think in my senior year of high school is when Dark Souls 3 came out, and I was a PvP fiend. Like I was playing a shit ton of Dark Souls 1 and 2 PvP. I was like alternating basically. I don't even know why I did that. I should have just stuck to one game, honestly. And then I was like super stoked for Dark Souls 3 when it was announced, and like me and my friends had talked about it. I was just super excited, and I was doing a little bit better in my senior year of high school. I was getting better grades, was paying attention more, but I think it's because I began to learn about the world a little bit more. I had a couple good teachers in my senior year of high school that actually made me realize the reality of life, of like these teachers in high school, like learning doesn't have to be about feeling like bored as shit. And then like most of my teachers would have like ego trips basically, where they're like, I'm the teacher and you pay attention and you have to care about this shit, and not like make you understand why you should care. But anyway, I'm doing a little bit better in school, and Dark Souls 3 comes out in high school, and I stay up all night to play it, and I'm like a Dark Souls pro at this point, so I make really good progress in the game when it's first out. And I'm playing PvP and stuff like that throughout high school. And there was just something about that time that I don't think I'm ever going to experience again. I don't think any of us really are, because like Dark Souls 3, well, all the games had this, but Dark Souls 3 had essentially what we called fight clubs, and I'm assuming most people that watch this will know what a fight club is in Dark Souls 3 or any Dark Souls, but just in case you don't know, oh, my voice cracked right there, puberty. No. There's not really a organized PvP at the time of release in Dark Souls 3, and the community really wanted to focus on PvP and make PvP fair and accessible to people. So you would go to this one location. Can't remember the name of the location right now. I'm going to try to show it on screen if I can remember. Please just remember, Cujo. But you go to this location. It was like right after Pontiff, I believe, Pontiff Sullivan. And the way you play PvP in that game is you summon people into your world, and then the people can run around in your world, and then they can try to kill you, or you can summon allies that will fight for you. But pretty much you lay down a sign to invade a person's world, but the person or the host would summon a bunch of people into their world, and the host would basically just be kind of a ref or just watch the fight club as they summon all these phantoms. And the phantoms, when you joined a fight club, you would just wait in a line to go down the list of people who were fighting, and then wait for your turn, and then whoever the person won in the ring is the person that you ended up fighting. And man, I got so into Dark Souls 3 PvP. I was like binging Scott Jun videos. I was watching Body Video. I remember there was this one time in math class where was so fed up with my math teacher at the time that I had watched the lesson that she was teaching on, I think, Algebra 2. I just looked up the lesson on my phone on YouTube, watched the lesson for the formula in like 15-20 minutes, and then I just spent the rest of the period just watching a Dark Souls 3 PvP like video or advice or something like that. Like I was learning about Dark Souls 3 in school and not even paying attention to the lesson. But look, if I could get the information in 15-20 minutes and then have her teach for like another 30 after I learn that, I think that that's like some kind of sign. I don't know. I'm just putting that there, just saying. But yeah, like in that game, curved swords were like really broken, and I would like use the way that the PvP worked, where the buffer, I would take the buffer into account and then swing the curved sword for when they ran away to just barely clip them. It was really scummy, honestly, and it was really broke. But I mean, like, I'm pretty sure that's patched out. I mean, Dark Souls 3 is a dead game. So, I mean, most of the internet has kind of moved on from Dark Souls and is kind of trying all the different stuff. And of course, like, Elden Ring is out, Bloodborne, and like all these different games and stuff like that. So, but out of the three, I think Dark Souls 3 was my favorite. I mean, I said 2 I really liked, but 2 was like the introduction to the series. I mean, I love 2, but then you play the other ones and you're like, yeah, 2 is like not good compared to these games. But I don't know, it's just like the storytelling and like the music of Dark Souls, where they took such huge risks of you not being able to like figure out the main stuff to do in the game. Like there were a lot of times I had to go to Google in 1 and 2 and 3 to try to figure out like, what am I supposed to do here? I'm not even really sure. But then the community just came together, and then, you know, you were able to play through the game just fine with the community. So I remember in the final boss of Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 3 was announced to be done. Like that was the final game of the series. So I like had fought the final boss in Dark Souls 3 and then like teared up when I was fighting the boss, because, you know, it's supposed to be like a callback to Gwyn, and then it's like all the dead fighters conglomerated into the Soul Cinder, and like, I don't know, it's just really cool. But yeah, I teared up. It was really sad because I really loved playing those games with my friends. I love Dark Souls as a series. At the time when I had played Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1, I was just so bored of gaming because you just move from task to task, and it was like unconscious. Like you didn't really consciously pay attention, and most people would just like, me included in this, like you play a game to just kind of like zombie out. So I would like have YouTube on and then just sit there and like play some like Call of Duty or just like some shitty game, honestly, that didn't take much brain power. And Dark Souls, I think, really challenged that and pushed like a whole generation of gamers into actually paying attention and being like, whoa, like if we pay attention to our gaming, we can actually get so much out of like this medium if we just pay attention and we put our all into it and not just give stuff to people just to give it to them, like to have them actually earn it and pay attention to items and their builds. And yeah, and I, like, obviously after 3 it was just like the whole span of Souls likes have come out, and it's just like been a rush to try to cash in on what Dark Souls was able to accomplish. And then now it's like FromSoft has moved on to like made Elden Ring, which was really probably their best game that they've made so far, but it wasn't the same to me as like Dark Souls. And they're making Armored Core. Like, I feel like FromSoft is a company that's really trying to just push a medium, or push the medium, and then like every other company, not every company, but like so many other companies are just trying to like cash in basically, and how can we most effectively make the most money. And Dark Souls was just a game made with pure heart, I feel like. But I don't know, like, just experiencing that and like playing Dark Souls, it had like changed me to where like experiencing that feeling of being able to accomplish hard things was like, you know, I can just take that same amount of effort and the same joy and all of the package that me completing bosses or completing Dark Souls in general comes with, and I can just apply that to my everyday normal life or the things that I'm trying to build, and I can get that same joy from Dark Souls that can just apply in my everyday life. So I kind of want to just talk about how I think Dark Souls has really changed my life for the better. Now that I've given you kind of like a brief overview, a very brief overview of like my experience with the games, fell in love with them, same as everybody else. It was just like in this period of me playing 1, I had like basically went homeless. But, yeah. And 1 helped me cope with that a lot. They're just really beautiful games. Like, I remember, like, I didn't have my own room, but, like, being able to just sit there at Firelink Shrine, and just the ambience from the campfire had, like, been so comforting, and so many times of just uncertainty and confusion and stress, and I am just so grateful. So grateful to From Software for those games, man. They helped me cope with so much bullshit at the time in my life. But anyway, how have they changed me as a person? Okay, when I realized that I could just do difficult things if I just focus on failing and then learning from the failures and then just moving on from that failure and trying something different, trying something new, and then just keeping what works. So for a very long time, I had wanted to get in shape and then struggled with it. And I think at the end of high school, I was like at 200 pounds. And then the lowest that I got to was 140. So I made quite a bit of progress. Right now, I think I weigh like 155. But I've been putting on a bit more muscle. Been getting a little bit more strong. A little bit more thick. But yeah, a video game is what taught me, like, oh, I can just like delay the reward. I can just focus on doing the hard thing and just focus on trying to get better at the hard thing to make it easier to where it's almost effortless. And that's kind of like weightlifting or running or like doing this YouTube or making music. It's just like if I fuck up, I fuck up. I learn from it. It's not a big deal. And then I take whatever works from the fuck up and just move on. And then just pretty much smoothly get better at stuff. So like, yeah, I've like ran 10K now, and I want to do a half marathon next. I've started weightlifting. I worked steadily at a job right now for 3 years, and I'm fully confident if I want to further my education, I can. And with that comes a lot of confidence. Like, I feel like Dark Souls, if you're able to complete it, it comes with a thing of confidence for like a lot of gamers who had struggled with confidence or anything like that, because that game is fucking hard. Like, it's not easy. It's not easy to like start the game new and then not know what the hell you're doing and then just get your ass clapped by an enemy in like 3 hits and then be like, what the hell just happened? And then you have to do all the like same shit you already did. It's just so fun though to just learn how to deal with the areas and the enemies. I mean, obviously it wasn't at first, because when I played Dark Souls 1, it was like extremely frustrating and I didn't understand it. But once you understand it, like Dark Souls honestly is the best game series that you could play in like the 21st century at so far. It's like 2023 right now when I record this, so. But yeah, I like got excited about learning thanks to Dark Souls. And I've learned so much about myself, so much about the world, so much on how to become a better person. And you could probably see, like, I have like a row of books right there. I've probably, honestly, not to flex so hard, but I've probably read like double the amount of that. I just tend to give books to people a lot. Like if I feel like a person needs a particular book, not that they like have to read it, but something that I feel like would be really good, like something they would be interested in and good for them to read, then I try to give the book to them if I recommend something. But yeah, I haven't played Dark Souls, I think, since like 2021 or 2022. I played Elden Ring and I loved that game so much, but it just was not the same as Dark Souls. Like I had completed it, I had even skipped bosses, and then I have not went back to play it. But I think, like I said earlier, that is probably their best game that they've made. That game and Zelda, I feel like, is doing open world correctly and not just filling it with bullshit, but it's almost like there's fun in just moving around the open world and not just to try to get from place to place. But yeah, I'm only here to talk about Dark Souls, so maybe another video. A couple of my friendships even are really based off of Dark Souls. Like we spent so much time just playing together, and we're still super good friends to this day. And yeah, I don't know, I could just sit here and gush about this game and just gush and gush because it's just done so much for me. And like, I don't know, hopefully this video captures that because I love those games like so much. So would I recommend them? Of course. They're gonna frustrate the hell out of you. If they start frustrating you, put the controller down and take a break, do something else. Progressively though, if you keep approaching it and then you try to understand Dark Souls, you are gonna fall in love with it. I can almost guarantee it. If you like doing games that challenge you and push you, it will make you addicted to self-improvement like I have been, but not in a toxic way where like that's my whole personality. It's just very fun to improve in any shape or form. So Dark Souls 1, if you want to play for the world. Dark Souls 2, if you want to feel like very sluggish movement, I guess. And Dark Souls 3, if you want to feel like some of the best boss fighting and movement out of the series. But yeah, this is the first time I've sat down and like done a video or like my normal commentary with the webcam. So face reveal, oh my god, it's me. I've definitely shown my face on the channel, so just check out the channel, dude. Like I've like posted other stuff with my face, huh? You'll have to let me know if you like something like the webcam or if you just prefer the commentaries. Or I'm working on a couple other videos as per usual. I just have some main project I got going on. We'll see how that turns out. Hopefully this convinced you to play Dark Souls if you haven't yet, and if you have played through Dark Souls, hopefully we can kind of start talking about our own experiences, because I love to hear people's stories with it. Like I said, it's like my favorite video on this platform is people talking about their experience with Dark Souls. For me, the bonfires in Dark Souls 1 with like the Andre the Blacksmith clink in the background, just ching, ching, ching. Yeah, and it's like my ASMR. I can fall asleep to that. That was so relaxing and so grounding. So hopefully you took something away from this video, I guess. But thank you for taking the time to watch this. I'm going to try to do more stuff like this. I love you very much, and goodbye now.